There is a spiritual secret so powerful that entire civilizations were built upon it, and so dangerous that our modern society does everything it can to keep it hidden from you. What I'm about to reveal goes against everything you've been taught about sexuality, masturbation, and vital energy, and it might sound completely absurd at first. But if you have the courage to question absolute truths you've never dared to challenge, the next few minutes may literally rewrite the code of your reality. Get ready to discover why great leaders throughout history, from Napoleon Hill to Nikola Tesla, guarded this knowledge as the most precious treasure of their lives. I'm talking about something far beyond just quitting masturbation. I'm talking about accessing an energetic portal that can completely transform your level of consciousness, productivity, and personal power. The brutal truth is, every time you masturbate, you're literally throwing away the most powerful substance your body produces, your sacred sexual energy. While our hypersexualized culture convinces you this is natural and healthy, ancient civilizations knew that this energy was the secret fuel to access higher states of consciousness and manifest extraordinary realities. The Egyptians built pyramids, the Greeks created eternal philosophies, and inventors like Thomas Edison filed over 1,000 patents, all of them applying the same fundamental principle you're about to discover. It's no coincidence that we live in a society addicted to porn and masturbation, while also drowning in anxiety, depression, and an ever-growing sense of inner emptiness. The connection between these two realities is deeper, and more disturbing, than you can imagine. What you're about to learn isn't motivational theory or abstract philosophy, it's applied spiritual science that delivers measurable results in a matter of days. I'm talking about sexual transmutation, the alchemical process of converting raw sexual energy into refined creative power. I'm talking about how semen retention activates neuroplasticity and multiplies your testosterone levels, creating unshakable confidence and irresistible personal magnetism. I'm talking about why tantric masters, Shaolin monks, and mystics from every tradition practiced conscious abstinence as a path to spiritual awakening. If you're tired of feeling drained, unfocused, and purposeless, if you're done living just a fraction of your true potential, then pay close attention to what comes next. In the next few minutes, I'll share with you the forgotten code of ancient civilizations, the modern science behind sexual transmutation, and practical techniques of inner alchemy that can revolutionize your life. But I must warn you, this knowledge comes with responsibility. Once you truly understand the power of your sacred sexual energy, you can no longer waste it unconsciously. Once you experience the levels of mental clarity and creative power that arise from conscious energy preservation, returning to your former mediocrity becomes literally impossible. This is the energetic portal that separates extraordinary individuals from the ordinary. And today, you have the chance to step through it. Since childhood, modern society plants a devastating lie in our minds about masturbation, that it is natural, healthy, and even necessary. This rampant normalization hides an ancient truth that early civilizations understood deeply: every act of sexual self-sabotage robs us of our most precious life energy. What we casually call relief is, in reality, a silent sexual addiction that drains our prana, our creative force, and our inner power. Ancestral practices from tantric masters and spiritual sages have always known that sacred sexual energy is the fuel for personal transformation. When we compulsively waste this energy through masturbation, we are literally throwing away our capacity to manifest an extraordinary reality. It's like burning money and expecting to get rich. It simply makes no sense. The dopamine released during this process creates a vicious cycle that keeps us trapped in mediocrity. Our society has normalized this habit because people without vital energy are easier to control and manipulate. The devastating impact on the mind is something no one openly talks about. Each episode of masturbation triggers a chemical discharge in the brain that directly interferes with our natural neuroplasticity. Mental focus, an essential element for any meaningful achievement, becomes completely fragmented when this addiction is fed. Napoleon Hill, in his studies on transmuted sexual desire, discovered that the great leaders and innovators of history channeled this energy into creative power. Meanwhile, the average person wastes this vital force in moments of instant pleasure, unaware of the real price being paid. Productivity plummets, motivation disappears, and that inner sense of emptiness becomes constant. It's like trying to fill a bucket full of holes. No matter how hard you work in other areas of life, something essential is always missing. Inner alchemy, the cornerstone of spiritual awakening, becomes impossible when our most powerful energy is constantly squandered. Self-mastery, the foundation of any extraordinary achievement, is compromised from the very beginning. In the physical body, the effects are just as devastating, though subtle and gradually noticed. Semen retention, an ancient practice in many civilizations, was considered the key to maintaining vitality and longevity. When we indulge in excessive masturbation, we are literally draining our deepest energetic resources. The chi, this life force that Eastern cultures have revered for millennia, becomes unbalanced and fragmented. One begins to feel constantly tired, lacking that vibrant energy that defines accomplished individuals. It's like having a phone that's always on low battery. It works, but never at its full potential. The hidden sexual energy, which should serve as the engine of our personal evolution, becomes a constant source of depletion. The body loses its natural vitality, that magnetic presence that attracts opportunities and inspiring people. Even healthy eating and exercise can't make up for this constant energetic loss. Conscious abstinence is not just about quitting a habit, it's about reconnecting with a lost spiritual secret. Great mystics, like the tantric masters, understood that sexual energy is literally an energetic portal to higher dimensions of consciousness. When we stop wasting this force through masturbation, something magical begins to happen in our reality. Sexual transmutation, a concept Napoleon Hill uncovered by studying extraordinary people, transforms our libido into fuel for material and spiritual achievements. It's like discovering you've had a superpower all along, but have been using it wrong. The energy begins to naturally channel itself into creative projects, deeper relationships, and an authentic spiritual connection. The spiritual taboo surrounding this practice exists precisely because its power is real and transformative. Societies that mastered these hidden secrets built extraordinary civilizations, while cultures that trivialized sexuality fell into decline. The energetic realignment that occurs during conscious abstinence is something that must be experienced to be understood. In the early days, you may feel restless or uneasy. This is normal and expected. It's your nervous system recalibrating, your dopamine finding healthier neural pathways. Sexual meditation, not in the sense of action but of deep contemplation, becomes a powerful tool. It's like wiping clean a fogged mirror. Gradually, mental clarity returns with surprising intensity. The kundalini, that serpentine energy revered by yogis, begins to awaken naturally when it's not constantly wasted. Mastering the mind over primitive impulses creates an unshakable inner confidence. People around you start to sense something different in your presence, without being able to explain exactly what. That's the natural magnetism of someone who conserves and consciously directs their most powerful energy. Breaking the cycle of sexual addiction marks the beginning of a deep journey of self-discovery. Each day of conscious abstinence is an investment in your most powerful and elevated version. The energy that was once wasted on fleeting pleasure now builds up like a dammed river, creating enough pressure to move mountains in your life. The self-control developed in this area naturally expands into other dimensions of existence: career, relationships, health, and higher purpose. It is impossible to conquer great external challenges without first mastering the most basic internal impulses. The sublimation of libido, an alchemical process known by sages across all traditions, transforms raw sexual energy into refined creative power. When you truly understand this process, you realize you've been living only a fraction of your real potential. And this is only the beginning of a transformation that few have the courage to initiate. Ancient civilizations possessed a secret knowledge that our modern society has deliberately forgotten, or chosen to ignore. Egyptians, Greeks, Hindus, Chinese Taoists, and even the Aztecs understood that sacred sexual energy was the master key to accessing higher powers of consciousness and manifestation. In the temples of ancient Egypt, initiates underwent strict semen retention practices as a fundamental part of their spiritual education. They knew that each drop of semen contained not just biological potential, but a pure concentration of prana, the life force that moves entire universes. The most secretive hieroglyphs, hidden deep within the chambers of the pyramids, reveal ancient sexual transmutation practices taught only to pharaohs and high priests. This was not primitive superstition, it was spiritual science applied with mathematical precision. Sexual alchemy was literally the secret behind the construction of impossible monuments and the absolute power of those leaders. When you realize that these civilizations thrived for millennia preserving this knowledge, it becomes clear that there was something profoundly real in these practices. In ancient Greece, philosophers like Pythagoras and Plato taught their most advanced students the sublimation of libido as a path to higher wisdom. Olympic athletes practiced conscious abstinence for months before competitions, not as a tradition, but because they discovered through experience that it multiplied their physical and mental strength. Socrates, considered one of the wisest men in history, was known for his complete self-mastery over carnal pleasures. He understood that awakening consciousness was only possible when hidden sexual energy was redirected toward philosophical contemplation and the pursuit of truth. The Eleusinian mysteries, secret rituals that transformed ordinary people into enlightened beings, were fundamentally based on the channeling of sexual energy into altered states of consciousness. Aristotle, tutor to Alexander the Great, taught that the mind's control over primitive instincts was what separated extraordinary leaders from common people. It's no coincidence that Alexander conquered the known world before the age of 30. He applied these principles of sexual transmutation in both his personal and military life. In the East, knowledge of vital energy was preserved with even greater detail through millennia-old traditions. Tantric masters developed a complete system of inner alchemy based on conserving and consciously directing sexual energy. They understood that qi, the force that permeates all existence, found its most concentrated form in human sexual energy. Taoist masters like Lao Tzu taught that physical and spiritual immortality depended directly on the ability to retain and circulate this energy throughout the body. Practices like Kung Fu, Tai Chi, and Qigong were born from this deep understanding of energetic conservation. Shaolin monks, famous for their seemingly impossible physical feats, strictly followed vows of celibacy, not out of morality, but because they knew it exponentially magnified their powers. Kundalini Yoga, a complete system for spiritual awakening, is fundamentally based on transmuted sexual energy rising through the spine. When you study these traditions deeply, you'll find that they all point to the same hidden secret: sexual energy is creative energy in its purest form. Pre-Columbian civilizations also preserved this sacred knowledge with great care. The Aztecs performed specific rituals in which warriors practiced semen retention for extended periods before important battles. They believed, and proved through experience, that this made them invincible in combat. The Maya, with their impossible astronomical and mathematical precision, were ruled by leaders who had complete mastery over their sexual energies. Their cosmic calendars and uncannily accurate predictions were born of this deep connection with universal forces, accessed through energy conservation. The Inca built Machu Picchu and other architectural wonders that modern engineering still cannot replicate. The secret was in their understanding that individual sexual energy, when preserved and collectively directed, could literally move mountains. Priests in these cultures spent decades in rigorous sexual self-control training before assuming positions of power. They knew that leading entire civilizations required an energetic reserve that only conscious abstinence could provide. The decline of these great civilizations curiously coincides with the corruption and trivialization of their sacred sexual knowledge. At the height of its power, Rome maintained strict sexual discipline among its legions and leaders. But when these practices were abandoned in favor of orgies and unrestrained hedonism, the empire began its inevitable downfall. It's a repeating historical pattern: civilizations rise when they master and preserve sacred sexual energy, and they fall when they waste it on instant pleasures. Entire libraries were burned, secret knowledge was persecuted by the medieval church, and over time this ancient wisdom was either lost or hidden. What survived reached us through secret societies, coded alchemical texts, and carefully preserved esoteric traditions. Madame Blavatsky, Aleister Crowley, and other modern occultists dedicated their lives to rediscovering and documenting these ancient secrets. They understood that humanity had lost its connection to a fundamental inner power, and that reconnecting to it was urgent for the evolution of consciousness. Today, when you look around and see a society addicted to pornography, compulsive masturbation, and instant sexual gratification, you are witnessing the exact opposite of what great civilizations practiced to attain real power. While they preserved and directed sexual energy toward extraordinary achievements, we wasted on phone screens and moments of hollow pleasure. The contrast in results is striking. They built pyramids, eternal philosophies, and lasting empires. We build anxiety, depression, and a constant feeling of inner emptiness. This is no coincidence, it's the direct consequence of opposing energetic choices. The energetic portal they used to access higher states of consciousness is still available to you today, but it demands courage to swim against the current of modern mediocrity. Spirituality and sexuality, which our culture has completely divorced, were inseparable in the most powerful ancestral traditions. When you begin to reconnect these two aspects through conscious practice, something extraordinary begins to awaken. Napoleon Hill revolutionized the world of personal development when he uncovered the best-kept secret of the most powerful and wealthy men in American history. For over 20 years, he meticulously studied the lives of Andrew Carnegie, Henry Ford, Thomas Edison, and hundreds of other millionaires and extraordinary leaders. What he discovered was astonishing. They all practiced, consciously or unconsciously, sexual transmutation, the art of converting sexual energy into extraordinary creative power and productivity. This was not abstract theory, it was applied science with measurable and repeatable results. Hill found that sublimated sexual desire was the secret fuel behind every great fortune and revolutionary invention. Thomas Edison, for instance, channeled his sexual energy into creative sessions that lasted for days, resulting in over 1,000 patents. Hidden sexual energy, when not wasted through masturbation or excessive sexual activity, naturally transforms into an irresistible creative force. It's like having access to a personal nuclear reactor. The only question is how to direct that energy constructively. The neuroscientific process behind sexual transmutation is fascinating and can be fully understood through the lens of modern neuroplasticity. When someone practices semen retention and conscious abstinence, the brain literally restructures itself, creating new, more efficient neural pathways. Dopamine, which used to be released in intense bursts during masturbation, begins to flow steadily and more balanced during productive activities. It's like reprogramming a computer to run on a higher frequency. All mental processes become faster, sharper, and more precise. Mental focus, essential for any meaningful achievement, multiplies exponentially when sexual energy is conserved. Recent studies show that men who go through prolonged periods without ejaculation experience up to 45% higher testosterone levels, resulting in increased assertiveness, confidence, and leadership capability. The sublimation of libido creates a mental state psychologists call flow, that peak productivity mode where hours feel like minutes. It's in this state that breakthroughs are made, trillion-dollar businesses are born, and masterpieces are created. The practical application of sexual transmutation begins with the realization that all sexual energy is essentially raw creative power. When you feel the urge to masturbate, that is your golden moment, the moment to redirect that energy into something meaningful. Grab a notebook and start writing down ideas for your business, hit the gym and convert that impulse into physical strength, or sit at the piano and compose a song. The energy must be channeled immediately and intensely. The greater the sexual urge, the greater the creative potential available in that exact moment. Entrepreneurs like Steve Jobs and Elon Musk apply these principles unconsciously when they work 16 hours a day on visionary projects. They are literally converting sexual energy into technological innovation. Writers like Stephen King and J.K. Rowling have channeled their sexual energy into creative writing, producing works that have touched millions of lives. Sexual self-mastery becomes business mastery, intimate self-control becomes leadership in the external world. The creative power released through consistent sexual transmutation knows no bounds. Nikola Tesla, the the genius behind nearly every modern electrical system, was celibate by choice, channeling all of his sexual energy into revolutionary inventions. He worked for days without rest, completely absorbed in creations that seemed to come from higher dimensions of consciousness. Michelangelo sculpted David and painted the Sistine Chapel by transmuting sexual energy into eternal art. Leonardo da Vinci, the Renaissance polymath, used semen retention to access states of genius that allowed him to be an artist, inventor, scientist, and philosopher all at once. These aren't isolated cases, they're expressions of a universal pattern. Conserved sexual energy transforms into extraordinary creative power. The inner alchemy that occurs during this process is literally the transmutation of lead into gold, primitive energy turned into divine accomplishments. Once you learn to master this process, you realize you're tapping into the same fuel that powered the greatest minds in history. The personal transformation that results from consistent sexual transmutation is both radical and permanent. In the first 30 days of conscious abstinence, you begin to experience energy levels and mental clarity you forgot were possible. Projects that once seemed impossible are completed with surprising ease. Relationships improve because you develop a magnetic presence that naturally attracts more evolved individuals. Spiritual awakening happens naturally when hidden sexual energy is directed into contemplative practices and meditation. It's like discovering that you've had a superpower inside you all along. Suddenly, everything in life becomes easier and more fluid. A higher purpose, that deep sense of mission, emerges spontaneously when you are no longer constantly draining your most sacred life force. People around you begin to seek your advice, look up to your leadership, and feel inspired by your presence. This isn't arrogance, it's the natural magnetism of someone who consciously conserves and channels their sacred energy. The spiritual secret behind sexual transmutation is that it directly connects you to universal forces of creation and manifestation. When you conserve your sexual energy, you are literally accumulating the same power that creates life, and that force can be used to create anything in your reality. Sexual meditation, not as an activity, but as deep contemplation of this sacred energy, opens energetic portals to higher dimensions of consciousness. Great mystics like Rumi and Teresa of Avila channeled sexual energy into spiritual ecstasy, experiencing states of divine union unreachable through conventional means. Kundalini, the serpent energy that sleeps at the base of the spine, begins to awaken naturally when sexual energy is conserved and directed upward through conscious practice. The energetic realignment that occurs in this process reconnects you to your original inner power, that state of infinite potential you had before being conditioned by modern society. When this awakening happens, you realize that masturbation wasn't just a bad habit, it was literally the barrier keeping you from accessing your most powerful and fulfilled self. The true alchemist does not work with metals in hidden laboratories, he works with energies within his own being, transforming primitive impulses into refined spiritual power. Inner alchemy is the sacred science of personal transmutation, where raw sexual energy becomes the fuel to manifest an entirely new reality. Great masters like Paracelsus, Eliphas Levi, and Manly P. Hall understood that the most important laboratory is within the human body itself, and that sacred sexual energy is the primary raw material for transformation. When you fully master your sexual impulses, you're not just practicing self-control, you are becoming the alchemist of your own existence. Sexual self-mastery is the philosopher's stone that transforms an ordinary life into an extraordinary existence. Sexual discipline generates waves of transformation that ripple into every area of life, career, relationships, health, and spirituality. It's like tuning the fundamental frequency of a musical instrument, every other note falls into harmony. Ancient civilizations revered these inner alchemists because they knew they possessed the secret to mastering physical reality through inner energetic command. The daily practice of conserving sexual energy creates profound neurological changes that literally rewrite your personality and capabilities. Neuroplasticity, activated through semen retention, reconstructs neural circuits, creating more efficient and powerful mental patterns. Within 21 days of conscious abstinence, you begin to experience levels of mental clarity you forgot were possible. Your concentration multiplies, complex projects become simple, and unshakable confidence emerges from within. It's like upgrading the hardware of a computer. Every program runs faster and more efficiently. Dopamine, once wasted in intense bursts through masturbation, now flows consistently during productive and creative tasks. Mental focus becomes laser-sharp, allowing you to complete in days what once took weeks. Sexual transmutation happens automatically when you create this neurological space. Conserved energy transforms into extraordinary creativity and productivity. The deep self-knowledge that emerges from sexual alchemical practice reveals layers of your being that remained entirely hidden. When you stop wasting vital energy on compulsive masturbation, a refined spiritual sensitivity begins to awaken naturally. You begin to perceive subtle energetic patterns in people and environments, develop sharp intuition for opportunities, and attract meaningful synchronicities with surprising frequency. It's like wiping clean a fogged mirror. Gradually, you begin to see not just who you are, but who you can become. Channeling sexual energy into contemplative practices like meditation, journaling, and spiritual study accelerates your inner growth exponentially. Meditations that once felt superficial now become deep experiences of connection with higher dimensions of consciousness. Kundalini, the sacred serpent energy, begins to awaken naturally when it is no longer being wasted through ejaculation. Altered states of consciousness become accessible without the use of substances. Your own conserved sexual energy becomes the portal to transcendental experiences. The manifestation of a new external reality always begins with internal energetic transformation, and no internal shift is more powerful than the mastery of sexual energy. When you consciously conserve and direct this life force, you literally shift your vibrational frequency, and a new frequency attracts a new reality. Toxic relationships dissolve naturally, because you no longer resonate with low-vibration energy. Extraordinary professional opportunities begin to appear, because your magnetic presence draws in people and situations aligned with your upgraded energetic state. It's like changing radio stations. You simply can't tune into the same frequencies as before. The energetic realignment that comes through sexual discipline reconnects you with your original higher purpose, that life mission obscured for years by energetic scattering. Creative projects that once seemed impossible now flow with effortless clarity. Your leadership abilities multiply because people instinctively recognize and respect someone who has mastered their inner energies. A lifestyle based on inner alchemy requires specific practices that transform conserved sexual energy into refined creative power. Start each morning with 20 minutes of meditation, focusing on the lower abdomen, visualizing golden energy rising up your spine to the top of your head. Throughout the day, whenever you feel sexual impulses, immediately redirect that energy into intense physical activity, push-ups, running, or deep breathing exercises. Keep an alchemical journal, recording your energy levels, mental clarity, and spiritual insights daily. You'll be amazed by the patterns that emerge. Combine intermittent fasting with semen retention. This combination dramatically accelerates energetic purification. Read the texts of alchemical masters like Paracelsus, Cornelius Agrippa, and Jacob Boehme, letting their words fertilize your mind with seeds of ancient wisdom. Dedicate at least 1 hour a day to creative projects, music, writing, art, inventions, transmuting sexual energy into tangible creations. The hidden sexual energy you conserve becomes the very fuel to manifest everything you've ever dreamed of creating. The alchemical journey of personal transformation through sexual mastery is at once the simplest and the most challenging of all spiritual practices. Simple, because it requires only one decision: to stop wasting your vital energy on masturbation and start consciously channeling it. Challenging, because our entire society is structured to keep you addicted to instant gratification and energetic dissipation. But when you persist beyond the first 90 days of conscious abstinence, something magical happens. You completely transcend the need for external validation, becoming a self-sustaining source of energy and inspiration. The awakening of consciousness that occurs in this process is irreversible. Once you experience the power of a life built on conservation and conscious direction of sexual energy, you can never return to the old mediocrity. You become a modern alchemist, turning the lead of primitive impulses into the gold of extraordinary achievements. And when that happens, you realize that mastering sexual energy was never just about breaking a habit, it was about discovering the secret to completely rewriting the code of your reality. We have reached the end of an extraordinary journey, one that few have the courage to take. If you've made it this far, you are no longer the same person who began watching this content. Something fundamental has shifted in your understanding of vital energy and inner power. What I've shared with you today is not just theoretical information, it is spiritual knowledge, the kind that entire civilizations used to build empires and reach higher states of consciousness. You now hold the keys to unlock the most powerful energetic portal that exists within you, your sacred sexual energy. The compulsive masturbation that once drained your life force can now become a thing of the past, replaced by a life of elevated purpose and extraordinary achievements. This knowledge of sexual transmutation, inner alchemy, and ancient practices didn't reach you by accident, you were ready to receive it. Now, the responsibility is yours, apply these teachings or let them slip away, as so many others do. The difference between extraordinary people and ordinary ones lies precisely in that choice, between applying and merely consuming knowledge. The courage you've shown in exploring these countercultural concepts, conscious abstinence, semen retention, already places you in a special category. While modern society promotes sexual addiction and constant energetic dispersion, you chose to investigate the opposite path, the path of masters, alchemists, and history's great achievers. That mindset already reveals that you have the potential to transcend the mediocrity that traps most people. The awakening of consciousness you've experienced today is only the first step in a lifelong journey of personal transformation. The hidden sexual energy you now understand to be sacred and powerful will become your fuel for achieving everything you've ever dreamed of. It is no exaggeration to say that you've just uncovered the secret behind all great human accomplishments, the conscious conservation and direction of your vital life force. Ancient civilizations protected this knowledge with their very lives because they knew its transformative power. Now, this spiritual secret belongs to you as well. My gratitude for your attention and open mind goes far beyond words. To speak about spirituality and sexuality as one, to address topics like kundalini, tantric practices, semen retention, and sexual transmutation, requires a mature and receptive audience. You have proven to be exactly the kind of person these teachings are meant for. The self-mastery you will develop by applying these concepts will ripple into every area of your life like concentric waves in a still lake. Your productivity will multiply, your mental focus will become razor-sharp, and your magnetic presence will begin attracting extraordinary people and opportunities. The neuroplasticity activated by conscious abstinence will reconnect you with levels of potential you forgot you had. Chi, prana, the life energy that flows through all things, you now know how to preserve and amplify this force within yourself. This knowledge is a gift that will continue to unfold throughout the months and years ahead. The real impact of these teachings will only be fully understood once you begin applying them consistently in your daily life. Redirecting sexual energy toward creative projects will turn work into passion, goals into sacred obsessions, and dreams into tangible realities. The energetic realignment that will occur over the next 90 days of conscious practice will reconnect you to your original inner power, that infinite potential that existed before you were conditioned by modern society. People around you will begin to notice subtle but profound changes in your energy, your confidence, your natural leadership. The sublimation of libido that you'll practice is not repression, it is the alchemical transmutation of raw energy into refined power. Napoleon Hill discovered that all great achievers practiced these principles, and now you have access to the same wisdom they used. The difference between knowing and applying will determine whether these teachings become a forgotten curiosity or a complete revolution in your existence. The energetic portal is open, now it's up to you to walk through it. Sharing knowledge about sexual meditation, inner alchemy, and spiritual awakening through energetic conservation is a responsibility I do not take lightly. These are not trendy concepts or superficial motivational theories. They are hidden truths that have shaped civilizations and transformed lives for millennia. The trust you've placed in me by dedicating your time and attention to absorb these teachings is a privilege I honor deeply. The spiritual taboo around these topics exists precisely because their power is real and measurable. When you master sexual energy, you master the source of all creation, physical, mental, and spiritual. The ancestral practices I've shared today have been tested and refined by countless generations of sincere seekers of truth. You are now part of that silent lineage of modern alchemists who choose to swim against the current of cultural mediocrity. The self-sabotage that kept you trapped in cycles of energetic loss can now be broken permanently through consistent application of these principles. Your journey of personal transformation is only beginning, and I am honored to have been part of this crucial awakening moment. This is only the beginning of a much deeper exploration into the mysteries of sacred sexual energy and its transformative potential. The knowledge I've shared today represents decades of study on esoteric traditions, mystical practices, and the modern science of consciousness. Great masters like G.I. Gurdjieff, Aleister Crowley, Manly P. Hall, and others dedicated their entire lives to understanding and teaching these principles, and even they only scratched the surface of its infinite possibilities. The kundalini, that coiled serpent energy that sleeps at the base of your spine, can fully awaken through the conscious application of these teachings, opening gateways to dimensions of experience that ordinary language cannot describe. The mastery of the mind over primitive impulses that you will develop will become the foundation for accomplishments that today still seem impossible. Your gratitude for these teachings will be best expressed through practical application and real transformation. And when you become a living embodiment of these principles, you will naturally inspire others to begin their own journeys of awakening. And thus, this ancestral knowledge continues to spread, one awakened consciousness at a time. This is the moment of truth. You've just received knowledge that could literally transform your life, but knowledge without action is nothing more than intellectual entertainment. So here's the question you can't ignore. Will you be just another person who consumes information and does nothing with it, or will you have the courage to apply what you've learned and unlock the real power within you? Every minute that passes without a conscious decision about your sexual energy is a minute wasted, a minute lost from your extraordinary potential. The energetic portal I revealed today won't stay open forever. It demands immediate action and total commitment. Will you continue to be a slave to primitive impulses that drain your life force, or will you become the alchemist of your own existence? Compulsive masturbation, the very habit keeping you trapped in mediocrity, could end right now, this exact moment, if you simply choose to believe you deserve an extraordinary life. The sacred sexual energy you've been wasting for years can become the fuel to manifest your most ambitious dreams. But I have to be brutally honest with you. The next 90 days will separate those who truly want transformation from those who just like watching content about it. Conscious abstinence is no joke. Your brain will resist, society will mock you, and every old pattern will try to drag you back into your comfort zone. Do you have the mental strength to face that resistance, and emerge on the other side as a completely transformed version of yourself? Do you have the discipline to channel sexual energy into creative projects when everyone around you is wasting it on instant gratification? Semen retention activates neuroplasticity and multiplies your creative power, but it requires a level of commitment that 99% of people simply can't maintain. So the question is, are you part of the 1% who actually apply what they learn, or the 99% who just dream about changing? Your answer to that question will determine whether this video becomes just another forgotten piece of content, or the starting point of a complete personal revolution. The energetic realignment that happens when you master your sexual energy will attract situations, people, and opportunities that seem impossible today. But that only happens if you stop being a passive consumer of knowledge and become an active implementer of ancient wisdom. How many years have you already lost living just a fraction of your true potential, because no one ever told you these secrets? How many opportunities slipped by unnoticed because you didn't have the vital energy to even recognize them? Sexual transmutation, as discovered by great minds like Napoleon Hill, only works for those bold enough to swim against the current of social normality. Will you be just another one following the herd into mediocrity, or will you rise as someone who understands and applies the universal principles of personal power? The awakening you experience today is only the first step. the next steps depend entirely on what you choose to do in the coming days and weeks. This journey of transformation through the mastery of sacred sexual energy is lonely in the beginning, but deeply rewarding as you progress. Are you ready to discover who you truly are, when you stop wasting your most powerful force? Do you have the courage to experience levels of focus, productivity, and personal magnetism that you forgot were even possible? The inner alchemy that unfolds during this process will reconnect you to your original higher purpose, but only if you push through the initial discomfort and resistance. How many mediocre versions of yourself will you keep living, before deciding to awaken your extraordinary self? The spiritual secret I shared with you today now belongs to you, but a secret only has power when applied consistently in real life. Your hidden sexual energy can become the driving force behind achievements that currently seem impossible, or it can keep being drained in empty moments that leave you feeling even emptier inside. If something deep has been awakened in you, if you feel like you've finally found the answers you've been seeking for years, then you need to subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications right now. What I've shared today is just the tip of the iceberg of a much deeper body of knowledge about spirituality, sexuality, and personal power, wisdom that only a handful of people in the world truly understand. In upcoming videos, I'll reveal advanced energy channeling techniques, secret practices of the great alchemists, and specific strategies to accelerate your sexual transmutation process. But these advanced teachings only make sense for those who actually applied what they learned today. If you don't subscribe now, chances are you'll never find this kind of content again, with this depth and authenticity. The community forming here is made of rare individuals who dare to question everything, and apply countercultural wisdom to transform their lives. Your life can be divided into two phases. Before and after watching this video. The before phase was unconscious, drained of energy and marked by passive acceptance of mediocrity. The after phase can be one of conscious mastery over your most sacred energy, the active manifestation of your boldest dreams, and an extraordinary existence that inspires everyone around you. But that second phase only begins if you hit subscribe, turn on the bell, and, most importantly, start applying what you've learned today. The energetic portal is open. The knowledge has been transmitted. Now, everything depends on your decision in the next few seconds. Will you close this video and go back to your old life? Or will you take the first conscious step toward the most powerful version of yourself? The choice is yours. But remember, great transformations always begin with small, courageous decisions. Subscribe now, and let's explore together the deepest mysteries of human power.